gonna make this pencil disappear. It's gone.
2008 was the year that superhero movies really cemented themselves as Hollywood staples. But Hollywood wasn't the only industry making super moves. Only a year later, one of the most influential pieces of superhero media would be born. Not out of Hollywood, but out of the gaming industry. This is the story of how the Arkham series redefined Batman and the gaming industry.
The joke's on you. Ta-da! Honey, I'm home.
But before we dive into the details, make sure you subscribe to Nerdstalgic Gaming and like this video. The theatrical release of both Iron Man and The Dark Knight in 2008 marked a turning point for superheroes in non-comic media. Mainstream audiences were starting to understand that superheroes could be more than tight pants and cartoonish violence. And in the case of Batman, this darker and grittier version became the most widely accepted way to portray the caped crusader. And the fans were signaling for more. Lucky for them, more Batman was on the horizon in the form of a brand new game. Rocksteady's Batman Arkham Asylum was set to launch on August 25, 2009. But for a lot of fans, that news was hard to get excited about. See, the quality of superhero video games pre-2009 was, let's say, mixed. We got some still beloved classics, some bizarrely experimental stuff, and some things we'd rather forget about altogether. For the most part, the biggest and most reliable hits were the ones where you essentially smashed digital action figures against each other, and I mean that in the best way possible. But with this mostly cartoony precedent set, it was difficult for players to imagine this serious black-clad detective fitting into the gaming industry at the time. Not to mention that Rocksteady was a virtually unknown gaming studio. How could a bunch of nobodies do justice to such an iconic character and universe? It wasn't like this would be the first Batman game in existence, but it would be the most high-profile. With the success of The Dark Knight in movie theaters, there were more eyes on Batman than ever before, so the pressure on Rocksteady to deliver something incredible was mounting. And deliver they did. When Batman Arkham Asylum came out, it was an immediate and massive success. It easily won Game of the Year, made enough money to make Bruce Wayne blush, and turned Rocksteady into a big name in the gaming space. However, its success wasn't just critical and financial, it was also cultural. Arkham Asylum and its sequels, City, Origins, and Night, make up the greatest superhero game series of all time, and are responsible for a huge shift in the gaming industry and in the way people view the Batman IP today. But it all started with Asylum. So how exactly did Rocksteady pull this off? What made Arkham Asylum so good in the first place? Let's break it down. The story for Asylum, while relatively simple, is top tier. The star was definitely the Joker and his complicated relationship with Batman.
I set a trap, and you sprang it gloriously.
But the game also brought in now fan-favorite villains to play both major and minor parts in a tale of elaborate schemes, espionage, and the futility of Batman's entire mission statement. The lead narrative designer for Batman Arkham Asylum was Paul Crocker, a self-proclaimed nerd guy and former comic book shop employee. Crocker was certainly a huge reason for Rocksteady's success with the Batman IP. It was clear from day one that Crocker and Rocksteady understood what fans wanted from a Batman game because they were fans themselves.
And we looked at what would make the best gameplay, what would please the fans, started there and then just went for it.
That understanding is part of the reason Paul Dini decided to sign onto the project. Paul Dini, for those who may not know, is an absolute legend who co-wrote and produced Batman the Animated Series. In an interview, Dini talks about being approached to work on the game, and he was immediately enthusiastic, saying, "This is Batman the way he is meant to be seen, with all the shadows and the freakish villains and all the intensity." Paul Dini would later make it known that both the animated series and Grant Morrison's 1989 graphic novel Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth, was hugely influential on the game's story and overall vibe. And Asylum even managed to snag the same voice talent from the animated series for many of the main characters. Kevin Conroy as Batman, Mark Hamill as the Joker, and Arlene Sorkin as Harley Quinn all reprised their role for the game and made the in-game versions of the characters that much more incredible. For 2009 standards, Asylum is straight up gorgeous. The gloomy atmosphere that surrounds the Art Deco dystopia of Arkham Island is just the right amount of depressing. Batman's cape physics and finding cobwebs in unexplored corners of the map made the world feel that much more alive. And the character design is inarguably iconic. There isn't a single character in Asylum that isn't instantly recognizable. But the game's take on the Joker is certainly its most revered. I mean, just look at him.
I don't want to escape. I'm having way too much fun. I even have you here to keep a smile on my face.
The game mechanics are tailor-made to make you feel like you really are the world's greatest detective. A combo-heavy hand-to-hand combat system is about as close to a comic book as you can get, and Batman's array of gadgets keeps gameplay feeling fresh as you search for clues in detective mode, traverse hard-to-reach areas with the iconic cape glide, and just generally be a badass. When it comes time to stealth, you truly feel like a master of shadows sneaking around goons who are totally none the wiser and taking them out systematically while they panic. It's the ultimate Batman experience that no other game or series has been able to really properly replicate. All of this helped to turn Batman Arkham Asylum into the Guinness Book of World Records most critically acclaimed superhero game ever made, and its sequels would only strengthen its legacy of success. Now, we know why Arkham Asylum was great, but we still don't know how or why it was so influential. Great games get made all the time, but they don't usually change the course of history. So what makes Asylum and the rest of the Arkham games so special? The series' impressive graphics, great story, and killer game mechanics all stem from the same secret ingredient in its development. The one thing every game dev team should have: passion for what they're creating. And that passion drove them to create something unlike anything we'd seen before. Because of how massively successful Arkham Asylum and later all its sequels were, gaming companies and even other industries were starting to take notice, and every aspect of the games was worth emulating. Going back to the game's graphics, everything from the lighting and textures to the way a character's hair moves set a new standard for excellence in the gaming industry. And the look of the world was proof that you could set a non-horror game in a dark, grimy, claustrophobic setting and still be wildly popular, which is a lesson the larger gaming industry would quickly take to heart. The stellar character design choices from Asylum and the later sequels were so widely known and beloved that they would eventually influence the way the characters were portrayed in other media. The way the characters were written is so incredible that they kindled new interest in the lesser villains. Non-comic reading fans wanted more information on characters like Harley Quinn, Scarecrow, Bane, Poison Ivy, and Killer Croc outside of the context of the video games. And as the years went on, we would see the inclusion of those characters in movies and TV shows a lot more often, and in much more serious ways than they had been pre-Arkham. As for gameplay, well, basically everything about the way the Arkham games play was hugely defining for the gaming industry. The combo-heavy combat system with a pulled-back 360-degree camera became a staple for 3D fighting games, and especially superhero games. Detective mode, while originally pulled from Metal Gear Solid, was popularized by the Arkham series. The perfect mix of puzzles and action in the main story, as well as the inclusion of collectibles locked behind puzzles, became an expectation of action-adventure games in the 2010s. And not to mention how familiar the Arkham series' stealth mechanics should be to anyone who has played a modern stealth mission in the past decade and a half. Arkham Asylum and its sequels really did change everything, but their biggest influence is on the Batman IP itself. Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy got a lot of credit for being the reason we have so much dark and gritty superhero media today, and Nolan definitely deserves that credit. But the influence of Arkham Asylum and the broader Arkham series can't be ignored. It played a part in legitimizing the push to turn Batman into a hero worthy of Oscar award nominations and video games with budgets in the tens of millions. And it helped to solidify Batman's place as a mainstream pop culture icon, with staying power to last another 80 years. And that's how the Arkham series redefined Batman and the gaming industry. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. If you're still here, I want to know, which Arkham game is your favorite? Leave your answer in the comments below, like this video, and subscribe to this channel.